You can hate, listen, love, or ignore me, but buckle up for my West Side Story. Where do we go from here? You can hate, listen, love, or ignore me, but buckle up for my West Side Story. Where do we go from here? It's where our hearts belong. They'll always sing this song. Where do we go from here? Hey, hey. Where do we go from here? Just know that all our stories started on that west side.
Oh, what does Booker T. Washington mean to you?
And what does Booker T. Washington mean to you?
What does Booker T. Washington mean to you?
Oh, what does Washington mean to you?
We come to this school day in and day out. But how many of us think about what the school really means to us?
Washington is my heart.
Join us as we matriculate from class to class to understand what Booker T. Washington means to us.
Booker T. Washington, a high school that resides in the West End community, comprised of approximately 11,251 households, where crime is above the national average, and where just as many residents have not obtained a high school diploma as those who have earned a college degree, and where the median household income is $24,700. Because of these statistics, it probably wouldn't surprise you what people think about Washington High School.
It's people moving outside of the city to the suburbs, and you building schools in like DeKalb County, Gwinnett County. There's a lot of black people up there now. So when they come back and look down, they look down on the city, I feel like.
At other high schools with teenagers, our reputation is very bad. Compared to other school systems like the CAB and stuff, they would put us in a very, very low standing compared to them. So it was kind of a duality when it came to Washington.
Washington High School is, it's kind of declined a little bit in the years, not because of students directly, but because of what students know and where students are located.
People I grew up with, they look down on Washington. You know, now Washington is the quote-unquote good school, and it's on the west side. So everywhere I go, I get this stank face like, you went to Washington. So.
Most people in the community only perceive Washington as a school that gets dumped with kids who have nowhere else to go. So of course that's how they perceive education, that's how they pursue the school. They come here just because they have to. They come here not because they want to. So I think peer pressure in the community has a huge influence on how students see the school.
People said it was a rough school, so how's that been? Have you been in it at all? Is it a safe zone for you?
I mean, the community has a whole bunch of, violence. The teachers and workers here don't allow the violence to affect our learners.
Once you all leave here, you become model citizens for the community, as in leaders and as in educators. That's the mentality of the teachers that are here now, trying to make the students better.
Such as like Ms. Lightfoot, I know she actually cares about us because when she gives us a test back to redo it, she gives us the test. She tells us to do test corrections, which is basically her giving us the answer, and we have to explain to her why we got the answer wrong.
Like think about people who are in a casket and the way Barbie looks.
And she gives us the opportunity to redo it based on that.
Washington, a place where, they cater to the students and they introduce all these new opportunities and they bring about all this money, all these grants, all these scholarships and things that, being a senior about to graduate, I wouldn't even think I would have been able to have as a senior anywhere else.
Morehouse School of Medicine actually has a partnership with Washington for internships, paid internships for Washington students this summer.
Well, as a student here, the 3 years that I've been here as an 11th grader, I really feel like we're a family. It's a close-knit community. I can tell that the teachers really care, and that's something I don't feel you could get at every school.
Even though the statistics of the West End do not seem favorable to the community, through the teachers, many students at Booker T. Washington are empowered, determined, and hopeful. But do we value the history of our school?
3 of the principals that are behind me attended Washington. And their main motivation was to get students to become aware of the historical significance of the school.
All right, so for the kids who joke around and play and don't necessarily take education serious, do you think if they knew the history of the school and like our rich legacy, that it would change their mindset and make them appreciate the education more or appreciate being a student of Booker T. Washington more?
No, because they're not asking, and no one's telling them. You know, even for me to know all that, I had to ask. Because when I first got here, I didn't know anything about it. I had to ask questions. Who is this? Who is that? I didn't know who Booker T. Washington was or what he stood for. You know, so no, they probably don't know because they're not asserting themselves. They're not asking questions, and if they don't ask questions with today, if you don't ask questions, you don't know. So
I believe if students actually took the time and actually knew about Booker T. Washington, I think there would be more initiative in the school than there is now. I think students will respect their peers more. Yeah.
You know, you're in the heart of Atlanta, and you're going to school, and you're just in the inner city. You're an inner city kid, and you're struggling and everything. And just knowing that Martin Luther King went here is going to make a difference. Knowing his legacy and knowing that he walked the same halls that you did, it's not going to affect how people live now.
I think for some students it would change their mindset because we do have a lot of rich history, and if you really knew like what Booker T. Washington did, the impact he had on African Americans and education, not just African Americans, minorities as a whole, like I think it would really change the way they kind of see things and the way they react towards certain things.
I do believe that we should definitely have a deeper knowledge of our history. Like I know people who don't know anything about the artifacts that's sitting in the hallway, as they just know that it's sitting in there and it's collecting dust. They have no idea about the history and of the people who've come to this school and who've learned and how they've grown into great people and how they affected the world. I think we should definitely get back to the roots of our school.
The school had a specific book that every student was mandatory to read. That book has now been banned. It's not mandatory to read here. And I feel as if the school itself doesn't respect Booker T. Washington as it did when it was first created.
The historical aspects, as well as becoming productive citizens, were part of our makeup. The teachers were trying to incorporate it in the lesson plan, and that had a tremendous impact on probably 70 to 80% of the student population at that time.
Some students believe that understanding the historical significance of the school greatly motivates students to achieve, while others suggest that current environmental factors have a greater impact on their immediate lives. Before embarking on this journey, we realized that as a group, we really didn't know much about our own school, and we wondered if we were alone.
What is the history you know of Booker T. Washington?
I know Martin Luther King went here. That's pretty much it.
Like Martin Luther King.
The great Dr. Martin Luther King.
Most famous being Martin Luther King.
Dr. Martin Luther King.
Dr. Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
I'll say Dr. Martin Luther King.
Wait. What else do people know about the school?
It's very historic.
I've never been to a historical school before.
Very historic.
A historical school.
It's a very historic school.
You can learn the history behind it.
It's very historical.
It just holds history behind it, you know. It holds a lot of history. You know, you can just look it up and you find out a whole lot about it.
Clearly, we are not alone. There has to be more to Booker T. Washington than the famous Martin Luther King Jr. answer, or know why the school is historical. What does that even mean? Let's explore why Booker T. Washington is a historical school, but first, let's meet the man.
Charles, do you know who Booker T. Washington was?
He was he used to be a slave that was freed after the I know that he was freed and he had to attend school He got into the band school and he ended up becoming a teacher afterwards.
Booker Telfair Washington was born on a Virginia plantation on April 5th, 1856. In 1865, he and his family gained freedom due to the Emancipation Proclamation.
This is a picture of his home in Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, where he actually died. He believed in a vocational education. That's what Tuskegee Institute actually started as, a vocational school, but later on went to be Tuskegee University, where they taught sciences and maths more than just vocational school.
At the age of 16, Washington began college at Hampton Normal and Agricultural Institute in Hampton, Virginia, where he would later teach. He became the first principal of Tuskegee Normal and Industrial Institute, which opened on July 4, 1881.
Who did he often have debates with and disagreed a lot? Another forward thinker of that time. No.
W.E.B. Du Bois.
Yes.
Like W.E.B. wanted us to, he wanted us to grow as a people, but he wanted us to do it through education. Right. And Booker T was like, no, let's work, let's build it from the ground up ourselves, so we can have it for ourselves.
Right.
They debated on, and I had to learn that from here. I didn't know nothing about that.
In 1895, he was invited to speak at the opening of the Cotton State Exposition in Atlanta, Georgia, where he advocated that African Americans could attain their constitutional rights through their own economic and moral advancement.
Those of my race who depend on bettering their condition in a foreign land, or who underestimate the importance of cultivating friend relations with a southern white man who is their next door neighbor, I would say, cast down your bucket where you are. Cast it down in making friends in every manly way of the people of all races by whom you are surrounded.
Booker T. Washington believed in not so sticking to ourselves, but sticking to ourselves.
Before the 1920s, there were no public schools for children of color in Georgia. For a number of years, the local black community met great opposition as they fought to correct this injustice. Eugene C. Washington was the architect who built the school and many other famous landmarks in the Atlanta area.
In 1924, Booker T. Washington High School became the first public high school for black students in the state of Georgia and in the southeast region.
The Washington High School ambassadors were able to explain many of the historical nuances of the high school.
So basically, this is just all the wraparound of all the murals explaining about everything that blacks had to go through.
Yes, and the things that they could do regardless of what they had been told.
Especially at this school, since it was one of the only African American schools in the neighborhood that helped give these subjects to students who really wanted it and needed it.
So if you notice, graduations used to take place on the steps out front. That's an aerial shot of just right out front. People are gathered right there. So then later, graduations moved to a municipal auditorium in city limits. Again, a segregated auditorium, and so then it moved to Civic Center and then the World Congress, where you all know it today.
Outside a four-story medieval eclectic-style brick building, there stands a statue of Booker T. Washington. The statue reads, "He lifted the veil of ignorance from his people and pointed the way to progress through education and industry." This inscription stands before every individual that enters the doorways of Atlanta, Georgia's Booker T. Washington High School.
Does anybody know where the original statue of this replica is located?
It's in Alabama?
It's in Alabama. What's the name? The original name of the school?
I think it was...
It was founded by Booker T. Washington. Just think.
Was it Tuskegee Institute?
Yes. Tuskegee Institute was the correct answer. The original monument is at the campus itself, and this replica, of course, was built here.
Do you feel the students respect this statue as they're supposed to?
No. No. I think due to the lack of knowledge of its importance and how much money it took and how long it took to erect
And the fact that the students themselves raised the money. The school district back in that time, since this was an all-black school, did not fund projects like this. So the students themselves had to come together with their own nickels and dimes and pay for the statue to be put up.
So, and all know because of their lack of knowledge of
ignorance, in a sense, which is ironic.
Since this is a statue.
Since this is the statue of lifting the veil of ignorance.
Graham Jackson lived here. If you're not familiar with Graham Jackson, he was a former band director here at Washington. He's responsible for arranging the lyrics for the school song. He's a musician to about 6 U.S. presidents, and one of them was Franklin Delano Roosevelt. His home is a model after Franklin Delano Roosevelt's Warm Springs home, and it's also the way Graham Jackson got the idea to rename the street. The street wasn't always named White House. It was formerly named C Street, like just the letter C. So Graham Jackson wanted it to be renamed not after the White House in Washington, D.C., but after the little White House in Warm Springs, Georgia. A common misperception is King graduated from here. He did attend here all of a semester or so, but he was skipped. He was skipped a level out of 11th grade to freshman year at Morehouse. So he didn't officially receive a diploma, although it's been talks of giving his family a posthumous diploma. So yeah, people want to come and see the yearbook and see a picture of King in the yearbook. There are no pictures of him in yearbooks. We do have an essay that he wrote for the Washingtonian back in 1944.
In 1986, Washington High School was placed on the National Register of Historic Places, a list that distinguishes national historic places that are worthy of being preserved. This monumental distinction has attracted famous visitors to the school, some of which include the South African Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Rosa Parks, Jesse Jackson, President George W. Bush, and First Lady Michelle Obama.
Now that we've learned the significance of Booker T. Washington, the man, and the school, it makes sense why many alumni take pride in attending the first high school for blacks in the Southeast.
And the alumni are a proud group because the school was an important role for them to rise and become who they became.
The school is also noted as being the home of many publicly educated, iconic black figures from the South. A few include Leroy Johnson, the first black Georgia State Senator, Judge Romay T. Powell, the first appointed African-American female judge in the state of Georgia, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a prominent leader in the civil rights movement.
You might have already gotten that feeling, how strong the alumni feel about the school during the tailgating, during homecoming, and how they come back and give scholarships for the graduating seniors.
And I'm in the process now of trying to get a facility in the building where we have archives so that the students and the alumni and the visitors can see all the historical artifacts that we have available. The building is still the same, but the people will always change. You have people that know the history of the school, and then you also have some people that could care less about the history of the school. So it has always been that way. Even when I was here, there have been many people, because of the history of Washington, wanted to be a part of that history. And then there have been people that just want to get a job. And when they come in here and they start learning about the history of the school, it becomes a part of their makeup, trying to make the school better and trying to make the people that attend the school better. And I hope that as you all get older and have your kids and grandkids, you will remind them about the Washington tradition.
I guess that we're learning from the changes here at Booker T. Washington to help us in the future when the real life changes are thrown our way.
Like, I not only contribute to Booker T. Washington, it also contribute back. Booker T. Washington is basically at its highest point since it's been in a while. Especially last year was their graduating class did exceptionally well. Actually, one of the highest SAT score in Atlanta came out of this school. So leads me to believe that the graduation rate here is going to be pretty high in the following years.
Washington that's my place. I couldn't imagine going to any other high school, graduating from any other high school. Washington is it for me.
One last question. What does Booker T. Washington mean to you?
For me, and probably a lot of other students, a marking point in someone's life. It depends on how you take it in, because some students take it in as where I have to learn more about him. I can't just go to a school and not know who he is and what he has done. And some students may believe that I just go here, I hear the reputation of Booker T. Washington's a bad school. The only way it becomes a bad school if you put a bad influence on it. You have to rep your school in the way you want to.
My name is Elantra Bell, and I'm very honored to be at Booker T. Washington High School. That's right.
I have had the opportunity to go to the same schools and walk the same halls as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and that's something that I'll be able to live with forever.
And I'm a scholar in the 12th grade with 23 credits, one more, and I'm going to be out of here. It's because of God.
Still a lot of the caring, you know, the teachers still show a lot of, you know, wanting to help you a whole lot. Like, they give you a lot of support.
Because I knew that, it motivated me to try to do the best that I could on any given day so that I could be a model for those that were coming behind me. And I hope that you all feel the same way. You want to be a model for those coming behind you because you do, even though you may not feel like it now, you have a great deal to contribute to this community and the community at large.
You can hate, listen, love, or ignore me, but buckle up for my West Side Story. Where do we go from here? You can hate, listen, love, or ignore me, but buckle up for my West Side Story. Where do we go from here? It's where our hearts belong. They'll always sing this song. Where do we go from here? Hey, hey. Where do we go from here? Just know that all our stories started on that west side.
How you feel knowing a little more about your school? Does that change your view of the school, or do you still have that same view?
Nah, it changed. It made me, I'm glad I go to Washington. I ain't know the meaning of it, but now I do by watching the video. Everybody don't get an opportunity to go to a historical school like this.
I thought the video was actually a great video to watch, and it helped me learn a lot of stuff about the school that I did not know.
I really like it because me, myself, I didn't know anything about Washington, and it's something new. The video taught me, like, more history on the school that I didn't know. Like, I knew that Martin Luther King was, like, went to the school or whatever, but I didn't know, like, nothing else on the school, and I think it taught me more history. And I think it was, like, a good video.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was insightful. I thought it was interesting to see what the students did and did not know. I was surprised that a lot of them only knew about Dr. King, you know, especially when we have right by the library, you know, all the famous, we have all the posters to say all the famous alumni, and everybody just came saying Dr. King, so I was a little bit surprised at that.
Everybody needs to start taking it seriously and start trying to learn the history about the school.
I thought the video was a great experience for me to see what goes on at Washington High School, who graduated from it. I never even knew that a musical person lived right across the street in that White House. This is a great experience for me to be going to Washington High School, and it's a great thing going to other people that they don't see that that statue actually means something. That not only did the graduates of Washington High School stand on those steps that people usually spit on and stand on, but that those steps meant something to people.
So now that you knowing all this about your school, how does this make you feel?
It makes me feel great that I attended school with such great power, such great unity for Black Americans to come together, not only in a neighborhood that has low equality, but going to a school that has a great effect that can get me somewhere. You know, some people that know about Washington High School that can come back and give a change.
favorite part of the documentary is how all y'all came together and made this documentary for the school. And y'all had told us about how inspiring our school is.
Do you think students will appreciate history more after seeing the documentary?
If they watch it and just get to, know what it means, then maybe they'll take
more to it.
Yeah,
Do you think students will appreciate the history more after seeing the documentary?
Yeah, I think they would.
I think some people would actually appreciate what they were bringing in this documentary.
I think a lot of the students would like the fact that they know more about Washington now than they did before, and that it gave them more of an insight on how the students felt and how the alumni also felt.
I enjoyed watching the documentary this morning in advisory with my advisory students. As always, I like promoting the history and the significance and the traditions of the school. I hope that my students watched it and that they learned something that they didn't know before, because we have dropped the ball with teaching the school history to the students. And I think that if the students don't realize the significance and the struggles that it took to erect this building, if they don't know that, then they won't honor it. They won't honor the traditions. They won't honor the fact that they're standing on the shoulders of someone else who had to sacrifice blood, sweat, and tears to come here. So I hope this is a promotion for our school history.
Well, brothers and also men, picture through digging in. And as we get it, Lord, I pray to God that we don't have to sin. Coming from the trenches, just a youngins try to get it in. Knees on the ground while we pray to the Lord again. Well, brothers and also men, picture through digging in. And as we get it, Lord, I pray to God that we don't have to sin. Coming from the trenches, just a youngins try to get it in. Knees on the ground while we pray to the Lord again.
Flow like the river, so I hope I don't drown. Gotta lay on my stomach, I can never back down. They say I'm a dog who done broke out the pound. We gon' party hard, call the cops for the sound. I'ma throw a ball like I'm standing on the mound. Just a youngin' from the hood who done grow up with a smile. They trying to make me fall with their seed in the aisle.
But I heard we don't fall, we so far, we afraid of the ground now. Taking trips out of town, I'm young, but I'm still blessed to be around now. Stop calling the thought, the hate that you gave, we turned that to love. That's a whole other word, but not on the sign, so how can I stop now? They just want me to fail, paying for books and avoiding the sale. Divided we fall, but how can we lean if we standing tall? How can we lean if we standing tall? How can we lean if we standing tall?
Brothers and also men, picture through digging in. And as we get it, Lord, I pray to God that we don't have to sin. Coming from the trenches, just a young